Hello and welcome to today's video about writing about the audience and writing about history as well, which seems to be strangely connected. Anyway, here goes. So the first thing I want to show you is what the AQA have said in their report on the examination. Wait, I just have to work out how to get to the next slide. Right, I've done it. Here's what the AQA have told us to do. And I love this bit at the top. Teachers might like to give the following quick tips. It takes me 2 years to get this through. But one quick tip is do not write about imagined 16th century audiences and their values, what they think, as if all people in the past think the same way. You might want to pause the video and have a read through the other things. Don't worry, I've gone on about them a lot, so has Mark. But here, people are very complicated and very different to each other right now, and they certainly were at any point. So they're very clear. And so, right, you're not supposed to write about that. What can you write about for the audience? So my top tip, which I hope you like, is write about surprises. The audience being surprised, but not any old surprise. Not, I never thought a woman could be like that. Not that sort of surprise, but deliberate surprises. The author's engineered a plot twist or withheld some information and now tells you, or has delayed some information, same thing. And you will, that's a structural point. Can you see that the author's structured it to withhold some information or twist the plot? So those are great for writing about the audience who's suddenly aware of something. So here's some examples in random order. I'm sure you can think of more and better. So first scene, Nora is a spendthrift and an intellectual lightweight. Second scene, she's the backbone of the family who has sorted out Torvald's health and their financial situation. So they meet a terrible Asif who's buying children from a local orphanage and abusing them and stoning people at football stadiums. And then you find out that that very Talib is Asif. So you have the whole, the whole first half of the novel, the whole of America, and then Amir returns, where Rahim Khan tells him that Hassan is his brother. But yeah, I was a bit stuck with the importance of being earnest because it's all so ridiculous and it's all surprises. So I then came up with Jackie's Algernon's brother. Miss Prism is the very person who lost him. Cecily already considers herself engaged. The two women forgive Jack and Algernon so quickly. I'm not so sure about the last one being one of these technical surprises. Maybe it is. So yeah, the whole thing is built on ridiculous surprises. And another classic here. The rival in my rival's house. Is she his ex-girlfriend that you think he still has pangs for? Is she, or someone like that, someone else who fancies him? No, it's his mother. That's who you've really got to fight. That. So there's some examples. Oh, here's another one. The skinhead is another version of Harrison. Oh, rather than being one of the dispossessed poor classes, don't you feel sorry for them? It's actually him and how his life might have been. And it's a big reveal. He aerosoled his name. Bandit was mine. So what? What about these? I've got to give you a big warning now. Oh, sorry. Here's the warning. It has to be relevant. You have to think of some meaning behind that plot twist, withheld information or surprise, some meaning behind it that actually goes with this title. And if you can't, don't put it. You will do badly. So back to the examples. Okay, there is a surprise that Nora supports Torvald, and I've shown it with all the quotes. What's been set up has been surprised, and the audience's assumptions about her in the very first scene are challenged. So that has to be relevant to whatever essay it is. So your surprise to Talib is Asif, and that focuses you on the Taliban rather than this awful person from the first half of the novel. You might say, as a historical novel or as a novel trying to educate Americans about the Taliban. It's not just one bad Talib. It's an organisation built on this sort of corruption. Hassan is Baba's son, and I suppose really for the audience, or for readers, you're seeing Amir change his worldview, that this person from different ethnic group is not an alien, not an other type of animal, a different type of human that's actually his brother. So it is a surprise to the audience, and watching Amir go through that surprise and turn into Hassan by the end. So I've said about the importance of being earnest, being built on surprises. I might say audience enjoy the absurdity of romantic drama, or the mockery of romantic drama, that type of thing. So it's got to be 100% relevant to the title, or you can't use it. So here's my second thing that you can write about with the audience. I hope this works. If it doesn't work, I'll be taking this down pretty quickly. Facts. Facts have changed, and so the audience's reactions might have changed. So facts. You can marry someone of the same sex now. Viola could marry Olivia, but most of the time that play's been around, you couldn't. It was just impossible for Antonio and Sebastian to be together. Which moves me on to the idea of fealty. It was a strong mover, the idea that you would swear allegiance and love, and talk about it as love for your Lord, and not your Lord God, your Lord, your leader. So I think a lot of us see Antonio as love struck, and there's a lot of love language. But I think that language was much more usual in talking about the Lord that you were following than it is now. So women can't borrow money. That's actually written into the play in 19th century Oslo. Yeah, it's almost as if Ibsen has to tell his audiences that a woman can't borrow without her husband's consent, but that might change the way you look at it. Anne-Marie's situation. In the Western world, women don't really leave their children because they can't afford them. They don't have them adopted, I think, because they can't afford them. I know in many other parts of the world you do, maybe by a family member, but you will go off and work in another country and send money home and rarely see that child. But in the Western world, I think her story is a strange one for us. Maybe it was a strange one for theatre goers in Oslo, though. They wouldn't maybe have talked to their own servants about this sort of thing. So with Tony Harrison, the closure of the industrial base of the UK, the consequent unemployment in the 80s, the crisis in masculinity with all these jobless people, men, that might make you read the poems differently. The men in divisions don't have really a choice. They can't get a job. And the skinhead in V, there isn't one for him to have. Conditions in mines, again, I'm not sure about across the whole world, but certainly in this country, conditions in mines are not as bad as they were in Patience Kershaw's time and in National Trust, that poem. But you might still say that they are, you might still be talking about that he's trying to educate modern readers on how the wealth of this situation was the wealth of this nation was created It's been erased from history, but we built our wealth on these people like Patience Kershaw. So, facts. The ending of the Kite Runner assumes that the Taliban's been defeated. And it was for a good decade after that. They scurried like rats into the hills. It's over. It can be a bit happier. But facts have changed and the Taliban is now in charge. So there might be something there you might write about. And finally, if you're talking about the flea, I thought there is no contraception. The pitfalls, the punishment for the woman agreeing to have sex are greater, both socially. I don't know whether you think the double standard is still there, milder, but there. It might be a bit less, but certainly contraception wasn't there at all. So those are facts, and maybe they have some influence on what you want to say. This is what the examiners have said, though. Really, they're really a bit annoyed at the beginning here, even though it's been flagged up in all reports since the inception of the specification. Many students are still writing loosely about contextual factors instead of writing about the text. So it's a problem with some texts, but not really with UA Fanthorpe, I see. Although wherever it occurs, it's problematic. So I put in yellow for you. Students should be told categorically not to write generalised and often made up comments about any historical period, including this one, and not to write about the lives of writers or literary movements. Neither should they write about critical theory in a not really relevant, tangential way. So be really, really careful with any historical fact you decide to put in. And I've put with any of these points or any historical point, it might be half a line. Don't try to show off that this is what people are doing. They're showing off. Oh, look, I know this bit of history. Cut that. If it's irrelevant, you will, or if it's general, you will shoot down the mark scheme. And I would stick to the surprises, plot twists, and withheld information. Well, I hope that has been of some interest to you. And I might even do another one if you want to send any suggestions.